What's up, good people? What's up, good people? It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., coming to you for another episode of the brand U Development Series. Y'all know what it is. Brought to you by Black professional men whose mission is to ensure the future of the African American male, and JNF Enterprises, which it is our mission to bring building visions, bringing visions to the 21st century, building visions to the 21st century entrepreneur. And as you know, we bring you topics, we bring you individuals, we bring you experts that can come and talk to you just about different topics that will make you better men, that will make you better husbands, fathers, uncles, brothers within the family dynamic. So tonight is going to be no different than any other. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation this evening with this young gentleman that you see that's to the left of me or to the right of me, depending on which way you're looking at the at the podcast. And what we're going to get into tonight is something that we as men don't readily have conversations about. So I thought it would be a great idea to have this young gentleman come and talk to us about financial literacy, but from the perspective of life insurance. And I know I'm going to say it in the midst of our conversation tonight in some way, shape, or form, because I think it's imperative that we do. But we as men want to always talk about it's our responsibility to protect and provide, and that seems to be where it stops for males. For men, we understand that our responsibility as a man is to protect, provide, and produce. I'm gonna say that again. It is our responsibility as men, and this goes for women too, to protect, provide, and produce. And it's not only from a financial perspective, and it's not only from a physical perspective for men that we protect, provide, and produce, but it is also from a spiritual perspective, it's from a cultural perspective, it's from a family perspective, that we should be ensuring that we as a household have the proper protection when it comes to the family. That means if something were to happen to you, if something were to happen to your spouse, that things are taken care of, or even if something were to happen to your children, something is there to protect you and them. So we're going to get into that conversation tonight, and it might rustle. Well, I might ruffle some feathers, but y'all know I'm going to tell it like it needs to be told to make sure that the truth is out there, and we have a clear understanding of where we are as a community, who we are as a community, and where we need to go as a community when it comes to us, and financial literacy when it comes to us, and life insurance. So I'm going to introduce this gentleman, and then I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us just a little bit about who he is and everything like that. And this is none other than Brother James Silver, who is a manager. He is and I saw this, I like this, the Minister of Financial Literacy. I saw that. So I like that. I like that title, and I like that that moniker that you put on yourself. So if you could just introduce yourself to the audience and tell them just a little bit about who you are, and we'll get into our conversation about financial literacy and life insurance.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Dr. McKenzie. Thank you for allowing me to share with you tonight. Again, my name is James Silver. I am a member of the First Baptist Church of Highland Park in Landover, Maryland, under the leadership of Dr. Henry P. Davis, where I have for the last 15 years been a part of a community of my church of teaching literacy, financial literacy to our memberships and to our community. I am retired from the United States Air Force, and I have had a IT consulting company for a number of years. And during my classroom time, I challenge my students to help them get out of debt and to stay out of debt. And one of the things I challenge them to do is find something else that they can do that they have a passion for and that will help themselves and their community. So while I'm challenging them, I challenge myself. So about 3 years ago, I challenged myself to go out and find somebody introduced me to the insurance industry. And I'm saying, like, why would I go into the insurance industry? I'm in my late 50s. What could I possibly help? What could I possibly do to help people at that age? Come to find out, that is the perfect age of going into the life insurance age, because life insurance business is an age where the people that I am now servicing are at my age. They can relate to what I'm talking about. They can relate to families who are transitioning and not leaving a burden on their families. Some of them are transitioning and leaving a tremendous burden on their families. So I know I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I'm on a mission to help 500 families this year transfer wealth from one generation to another generation and help them not leave this financial burden on their families. So that's briefly about me. I look forward to this conversation tonight. I'm looking forward to sharing this knowledge with the world out there tonight.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. And thank you for telling us just a little bit about who you are. And now how important is it now? You mentioned that I guess you started this in your church. What was it that triggered you and said, you know what, this is something that I feel passionate about. This is something that I think the message needs to get out there. What was it that kind of caught you and said that this is something that I really think I need to do?
Funny you should ask that question. In my debt management course, one of the topics we talk about is insurance and talk about leaving an inheritance. The Bible tells us, and I quote a lot of scriptures, so if I offend anybody, I apologize in advance. I'm not apologetic about my faith, about my walk.
Absolutely.
The Bible tells us in two scriptures that I quote quite often. In Hosea 4:6, it says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." And what we don't know is hurting us as a community. It's hurting us as a community. We're not able to learn what other communities have learned and how to pass on the wealth from one generation to another generation. In my class, we talk about the topic of insurance. And I asked the question, and most of the students that come to my class, now, mind you now, are retired females. I have very girls talk about finance because the men says, you can't tell me what to do with my money. Problem is that the Bible tells us it's not your money in the first place. It's God's money. He allows us to use his money. And so knowing that, God wants us to be a good steward over the resources in which he has appointed to us. And where we're not a good steward over it, he says, I will take it away from you and I'll give it to somebody who is a good steward. So, and the second scripture that I quite often use when it comes to insurance and things, I use Proverbs 13:22. It says, a good man, and since we're talking to a male audience, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, to his grandchildren. Many of the men that I encounter are not even leaving enough to take care of when I get out of here, when I check out, when I die. Is there going to be enough for my family to maintain their current lifestyle? If it's not, then we as men are not doing our jobs as a man to actually put things in place so that we can take care of our families. So that's what led me to what I'm doing today, is being able to take care of my family, whether I'm here or not. That's what led me to this.
Now, why do you think, you mentioned your class, and I want to talk about this because like you said, we are, this is, it's not just for men, but I think we need to pay attention to men, specifically Black men. Why do you think that your class was majority women, and why do you think we as men don't pay attention or don't do the things that we need to do when it comes to our health, when it comes to ensuring that we are protected, but then also our household, our families are protected as well?
Excellent question. I believe that we have been brainwashed to think that I'm so macho that I don't need to consult a professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to let somebody else tell me what I should be doing. Yeah. That's why we don't go to the doctors. We don't take care of our health because we don't go to the doctors. We said, oh, and nothing's wrong with me. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm macho. I'm big macho. I'm the man. I'm the man. Nothing's going to happen to me. Well, I can tell you story after story of the men who I have encountered in the last 3 years who are no longer here, who have that same macho image. Perfect example, I had a gentleman I was trying to talk to back in May of last year. Mm-hmm. I need to have a conversation. His fiance wanted me to have a conversation with him.
Okay.
Gentleman was always too busy. I'm always too busy. Died June 28th of a massive heart attack, 62 years old. Wow. I'm too macho. Now the family has to struggle to try to figure out how do we put this man in the ground because he had no insurance.
Yeah.
And now that funeral cost was in between $8,000 and $15,000 just for the funeral cost. That's not including the cemetery plot. So now if you got to go talk about cemeteries, you talk about another $4,000 to $8,000. So you're talking about a $20,000 bill that this family had to try to come up with. Mm-hmm. And GoFundMe is not the answer because GoFundMe is not insurance. But we're so macho that we said, oh, I don't need to do all these kind of things because that's not why I'm here. That's not why I feel like that's not what I'm here supposed to be. So I'm here to take care of my family. But you're not taking care of your family if you're not putting things in place to take care of them. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it really did. And I think it has to do, like you said, not only that we have this mindset of being macho, but I think it also has to do with, unfortunately, the way that we were raised. We weren't talked to as young kids the importance of having a financial literacy plan, of having a plan for when we get older, as we get older. And we'll get into this a little bit about when we're in our 20s and 30s and we just think that we're indestructible, especially as men. We don't think that anything is going to happen to us. But like you just mentioned, this last 2 years with the pandemic that we've been dealing with, there have been a lot of people that thought that they were going to be here forever and find themselves no longer here. And leave behind a family that has to, like you said, try to come up with the finances in order to be able to just to put them in the ground. Not even talking about the other debt that they might have had, but just to put them in the ground, and how we have to understand the importance of this. Now, can you talk about your experience as a manager, the Ministry of Financial Literacy, and people's understanding of the importance of being educated from this perspective on financial literacy? Do people even begin to understand stand this, or do they get it kind of when it's too late? Or have they been getting it when it's kind of too late?
Well, let me start out with this. I teach 2 classes at my church.
Okay.
One class I teach to teenagers, because as we tell the parents, we were never taught as young people how to manage money.
Yes, absolutely.
The Bible talks more about money than it does salvation.
Tell them.
Okay. Absolutely. So if God thought so much of this topic, why don't we listen to that? If we've never been taught to do something, we can't understand what to do. Okay. The reason why we get educated is so that we can learn what not to do and what to do in order to build wealth for ourselves. But the problem is, if you don't know how to manage money, then you're losing out on a tremendous asset that God has already given to us. God told us that to be in slavery, to be considered in slavery, is to be in debt. It's a form of slavery. That's what the Bible tells us. So if the Bible tells us, and those who are believers in God, it says that I'm enslaved because I am in debt, then we need to think about this. So then the second time, and then we grow up this mentality of, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do with the money. I can handle this. But we get ourselves into bad financial decisions. We start out with bad financial decisions. And one of the bad financial decisions I consider is for a young person to go to college and not figure out how they're going to pay for that college, and then come out with this huge financial debt at the end of a 4-year degree. You come out with a 4-year degree and you owe $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. You already set yourself up with a financial burden that usually takes anywhere between 30 to 40 years to pay off a $40,000 student loan. Financial debt. And to get a degree like what you have, your PhD, sir, you probably spent well over $100,000 to get that degree if you went to college. I know you went to college. So you had to spend a lot of money. So at that point, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. Other ethnicities teach their children to go to school, get a good education, start your own business. We teach our kids to go to school, get a good education, get a good job. To me, that's a wrong mentality that we should be teaching our kids. They come out of college on $30,000, $40,000 for student loans, and then you get a job where you can barely pay the student loans back. So we're not taught how to manage the money growing up. So it's important that we grab our young brothers and sisters at a young age and say, look, if you do X, Y, Z, then the outcome may not be what you want. So I always teach my young kids to go and find yourself some free money that to go to college on. I went out and purchased a book for my young kids, for my young students, on scholarships, grants and scholarships. So I can say, look, let me direct you to someplace where you can get this free money.
Right.
This money that you don't have to pay back. And so that when you come out of college, you're not coming out with this huge student loan debt. So that's where I think it begins at a young age. That's why I grab the young brothers and sisters and try to say, let me grab you. If they will listen to me, let's try that.
But see, what I've learned too is sometimes, and you tell me as well, but what I found out too sometimes is, we didn't know, or we didn't learn because our parents didn't learn. Our grandparents didn't know, didn't learn. We're kind of that first generation that has really kind of grown, having access to so much more. And we seem to have access to so much more, but we seem to do less. Yes. That we just seem to do so much less. And all of these things that are out here, because I truly believe that there's no excuse for us in this day and time to know what we need to know about financial literacy. There's nothing that our children and our children's children should not know, because we should be having those conversations with them about, like you said, not just money, but how money works, how it works, what it does, the importance of using it. Like you said, is in the Bible. The Bible talks about money more than anything else. And more, like you said, and it talks more about money than salvation. So what do you think God is trying to tell us with him doing that? He said we have to be very careful, and the importance of it, the resource of it, and how we have to come to be able to use it, because it's a tool. Money is a tool. It's Absolutely. A resource for us to be able to do what it is that he's given us the assignment to do. And when we don't educate ourselves, when we don't understand how it is that we're supposed to operate and maneuver in the use of it, then we, like you said, he'll take it from us. Because I always think about the story of the master that had the servants with the talents.
Absolutely.
And how, and I've said this, God created everything to reproduce. Everything he created has the ability to reproduce. We as man didn't have the ability to reproduce until God said it's not good for man to be alone. He created woman so that we could reproduce and make more. So we as people with our financial literacy, it gives us the ability to be able to do more, to produce more, to leave more, because it's every generation's responsibility to make it better for the next generation.
Absolutely.
And I think that we've dropped the ball, because I'm 53. You said you were in your late 50s, so we're in that same age bracket. But our generation has dropped the ball in educating and preparing the next generation for where it is that they're going to be. Because those that are in their 20s and 30s are now coming into their own. They're learning some of the things that they're learning now, some of the things that we already know, of course, but we're not pouring into them so that they have an understanding of it. And that very thing, one of those very things being life insurance, being financial literacy, and how to be able to use it. Now, can you tell us a little bit about life insurance products and what you talk about in your class, the kind of the things that you cover, and the importance of it in the class?
All right, so let's start at Insurance 101, so to speak. There are two basic types of life insurance. One is term, the other one is permanent insurance. Mm-hmm. Term insurance implies that it will terminate at some point.
Correct.
That's the term, okay? Term is usually a 5-year, a 10-year, a 20-year, or 30-year product, okay? There are two groups of thought of who should get a term policy and who shouldn't get a term policy.
Okay.
All right. A young couple who just bought a house, maybe a $500,000 house, should have a term insurance policy on both of them in case one of them should die before the house is paid off.
Okay.
It's called a mortgage protection plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically designed so that as the house, what's owed on the house decreases, the amount of the insurance decreases with it. Okay, so it's a decrease, what we call a decreasing term insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the whole idea here is that by the time the house is paid off, the insurance policy should be at zero. The problem with that is, as you get older, your financial responsibilities goes up also.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a huge house note now, And insurance bill may not be that high, but your other obligations goes up. We call it the X curve. Your responsibilities are high now. Your financial obligations are high, but your income should be going up as you get older.
Right, right.
And to replace that income, you got to have enough insurance to replace that income should you die at that later on in the life. Life insurance is much cheaper if it's bought at a younger age. Life insurance is based on 3 major factors: age, health, and sex. Okay? You may have that term policy at 25, but your health deteriorates at 50. Now my insurance policy is based on I'm age 50 and I'm sick. The 3 conditions that we never want to happen in life is to be old, sick, and broke. Okay? And that happens so frequently in the Black and brown community. In the Black and brown community, most of the people I encounter are sick, broke, and many times uninsurable because they've gotten health conditions. So having this term policy at a young age, great, but you still should have something else in place. Another the permanent insurance policies are 4 types of permanent insurance policies. One being a whole life policy, and most people think it's term and whole life, but it's 4 types of permanent insurance. Okay. Whole life, a variable universal life insurance policy, a universal life insurance, and an indexed universal insurance policy. All those terms are great terms, but you got to understand what they mean. Whole life policy is basically usually for your burial expenses. It doesn't grow up in value. It just maintains the face amount of it so that someone will pay for the funeral costs or the transition costs at that point. Universal life policy was the first type of policy outside of the whole life policy where people could actually start gaining money into it. It usually pays out about 3% interest rate on the money. Then they came up and says, okay, I don't like this policy because I'm not gaining enough money on it. The third type of policy for whole permanent insurance is called a variable life insurance policy. A stockbroker has to be the one to sell that policy because it's tied to the stock market. As the stock market goes up, the value of the policy goes up. As the stock market goes down, that goes down also. And the 4th type is the type that I like to have. And I have one of those. It's called an indexed universal life insurance policy. It's tied to the S&P 500.
Really?
The S&P 500 are the top 500 companies in America. Those stocks typically do not go down much in value. For example, Amazon, Facebook, Walmart, those huge companies like that, their stocks typically are stable and they never go down in value. Okay? And so those policies typically pay out between 7 to 10% annually. And that money is added onto the face amount of the policy. So if somebody had a $150,000 policy that's growing at 7% every month, every year, that means that 7% is added onto that $150,000. Perfect example of how this works is 2 years ago, I did an insurance policy for a 3-year-old child of a medical doctor for $1 million. And he says, why would you insure your child for $1 million, your 3-year-old? Well, by the time she's 18 years old, she'll have $40,000 of cash built up into this policy that she can take out tax-free. Okay? By the time she's child is 40 years old, she will have $1 million of cash that she can take out and do whatever she wants to do with this money.
Wow.
Tax-free.
Wow.
Insurance proceeds come to the beneficiary tax-free or to the owner of the policy tax-free. Now, if the child didn't want to use this policy, this money, the father, who is a medical doctor, could take the money out of the policy because he's the owner of the policy. He can take the money out and do whatever he wants to do with the policy, the money, tax-free. This is something that we are not taught.
Right.
And so since we're not taught, we don't take advantage of these products that could benefit us in the long run. These kind of policies is how we leave a generational wealth. Insurance, whole life, the permanent policies are the way we leave inheritance to our families. We need to understand that so that we can leave those inheritance, because the Bible tells us to leave one. Does that answer your question, sir?
No, absolutely, absolutely. That's phenomenal. And like you said, these are the conversations that I believe we need to have as a community. Because you just educated us on. I just thought, like most people, that there was term life insurance and there was just whole life. It was, I didn't know that there was a breakdown into the whole life insurance. That there were the four types. Right. So people can have a clear understanding of, you have options, and that simple math that you did with that doctor that had the child, the daughter that was, I forgot how old you said at the beginning.
3 years old. 3 years old.
That was 3, and then by 18 she has $40,000 that she could use, and then when she got older, the 30, if she leaves it there, it turns into $1 million. You've just made your child a millionaire by 40.
By 40.
You've made your child a millionaire. That's simple. That's simple. And we, like you said, that's understanding how money works. That's understanding, hey, it's more important for me to invest in my child in their childhood, so that when they get older, they're able to do the things that they need to do or want to do without any kind of, say, restrictions. They have the ability, they have the resources, as we said. Money is a resource. They have the resources to do the things that they may want to do. They can take that $40,000 and invest it in real estate and make even more money. We put out, when we do things like this, we put our children in the position to win at life and to win at what they want to do. We, as I said before, we make the next generation better. Absolutely. How many of us would if I ask people in the chat and everything like that, how many of the adults that are watching this want their children to be millionaires by the age of 40? How many do you think will raise their hand?
Everybody should raise their hands.
Right.
Everybody should, but when you start telling them, explaining to them what you must do.
Right.
Many of them don't want to do that. I've heard stories that say, well, I didn't come into this world with anything. I'm not leaving anybody else anything. And that's a wrong.
Yeah.
Stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Stinking. You thinking wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely heard some folks that have said that, and I think that's sad that that someone would be that selfish and to think of themselves that way. Now, can you tell us about this? Can you tell us about why people don't invest in insurance policies or insurance? Because I looked this up. 30% of America is uninsured. That's 37.5 million people don't have life insurance policies. Why is that?
I ask myself that question every day, and I've talked to families who don't have insurance. I talk to older people, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, why did you wait till you get sick to think you need insurance now? And you could have had a 20-pay insurance policy that you bought at 40 years old that's paid up by the time you're 60. Yeah. And it's paid up. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You got money. I mean, that's just one example. But so many families that I've run across says that's an extra bill that I don't have the resources to pay for, or don't need to pay for. I have a lady that a mother I was talking to back in the summer last year. She had $170 worth of cable bill and no insurance. no life insurance. I'm scratching my head. I'm like,
Yep.
so why is your cable bill so high? Because I deal with debt management. I'm talking to people about the debts. And I'm trying to get the understanding, why do you have so much cable bill and no insurance? And so I asked the lady, I said, how many cable TV boxes do you have? She said, I got 4 TVs, and we got boxes on every TV. Why do you have a box on every TV? These boxes could be $25 a month rental fee on these boxes. So that means she could be paying $100 just for the rental of these boxes. Okay, so if you took that same $100 and invested into some type of insurance, product, that could be a long-term benefit. But I think so many people have what I refer to as microwave thinking. They want instant gratification.
Yes.
They want it now. I'm not willing to wait on it. I want my cake now. I do not want to wait to bake that cake. That's why so many bakeries are out here, so many restaurants, because I don't want to wait for anything. And that's what we are teaching our children, to have this microwave mentality, that I want it now, and that I'm not willing to wait for anything. And that's going to hurt our generation.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we have misplaced, displaced priorities, and it goes back to what I was saying about us as men thinking that, protecting and providing is just a financial money. I got to go out here and work. I got to go out here and work to take care of my family, and to, to make sure that all the bills are paid and everything like that. Well, it's more than just that, brother. It's more than just you being physically strong. I don't care how strong you are. You get sick, something happened to you, then what? What are you doing? And I promise you, if I were to ask those same men that talk about protecting and providing, if they have an insurance policy for their child so that you could make them a millionaire by 40, and I'm going to say it again, so that you can make your child a millionaire by 40, do you have that? I promise you they don't say that. They will say no. And they don't have that in place. So don't, I told y'all not gonna be happy with me today. So don't talk to me about protecting and providing if you're not on the road to doing that. If you're not putting in place these protection measures, and to make sure that your children's children, not your children, your children's children, that's your grandchildren, and even your great-grandchildren are taken care of, because you're building a legacy. You're leaving a legacy, so that if something happens to you, you don't leave that burden on those that you've left behind. And so many of us do that. There's so many of us that when, whatever the circumstances or situations where we leave, we haven't properly prepared, so that, like you talked about, that the family members that you're leaving behind can maintain that same lifestyle or some semblance of that lifestyle, because you took the measures on the front end to make sure that even in your absence, even in you're not being here any longer, they were well taken care of, and everything like that. So can you give us, I'm a solution-oriented person. So okay. I want to talk solutions. Can you give us 3 solutions or 3 keys to those who, like we were just talking about, that don't have insurance, and what they can do or what they should do in order to be able to now acquire, even if it's just the insurance enough to just bury? What should they do? What would you say are 3 things that you would tell?
First thing I would say is, admit that you don't have the insurance, and let's find solutions for it. Let's find a solution for it. Let's have a consultation. The consultation will be free. Let's just have a conversation. It says, okay, tell me what you got in place. And then a lot of men tell me, well, I got insurance on my job. So here's what I ask people who said, I got insurance on your job. Do you plan on dying before you leave your job? Okay. Only 3% of the people who have insurance on their jobs die while they're on the job. So that means 97% of the people who have jobs, when they leave the job, the insurance goes away.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Now, maybe if you work for the state government or the federal government, you might be able to keep some of it, but even that is a decrease in amount. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I would say is, don't be afraid to say that I don't have it, and let's have a consultation. Mm-hmm. Second thing is, once you have that consultation, lay your cards on the table and say, look, what do you have and what don't you have? And let's say, if you don't have anything, let's put the minimum in place. Even if that's like a $20,000 policy, to at least take care of making sure that you don't leave a burden on somebody. Because as a man of God, I pray that one day I'm going to be absent from this body and I'm going to be with my God. Okay? And to be absent from this body, that means I got to die. The only way this body doesn't die is if Christ comes back and resurrects his church. And we all get caught up at the same time. Otherwise, my death is going to cause a financial burden on somebody if I don't have something in place.
Correct.
Okay. So we put something in place. And then what I had to wait until I was 58 years old before I started putting something in place for me, for my retirement, for my insurance product that I can pour money out of.
Okay.
I bought at 58 an index universal life insurance policy for the sole purpose of me building wealth up so that when I'm at 75 years old, I can pour money out of that policy tax-free and I can live on that money. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm using the insurance policy to build the wealth that I can use at a later age. Right. Also, that policy also comes with long-term care.
Okay.
The Bible tells us to work while it's day, for night coming with no man can work. That tells us that one day we're either going to get to a point where we don't want to work or we can't work.
Correct.
If you're, as I stated before, the three worst conditions that you could ever have in your life is to be old, broke, and sick. I am doing whatever I can do for myself and my family so that I'm not old, broke, and unhealthy. And that's what I would suggest. Every man, every woman that's under the sound of our voice tonight is that you put something in place so that you're not going to get old. Because I run across this every day of the week because I deal in a senior community right now, and the people who I talk to have all three of those conditions. They're old, they are sickly, and they are broke. Okay? So if you don't want that to happen, then we need to put something in place. And insurance policies are basically a good tool that you could use to put in place so that you can have the resources later on in life. Hope that answered that question for you. Three things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Three things. Have a consultation, put at least the policy that's going to take care of your burial expenses, and then put something in place that's going to be long-term for your family.
Now that policy that you just talked about, can you give us like an average of what that might cost someone?
And I can only tell you about, again, it's based on your age, health, and your sex.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you're unhealthy, it's going to cost you more money. Mm-hmm. If you're older, it's going to cost you more money.
Yeah.
If it's, males get charged more than females. So you could be $150 for a policy to $1,000 a month for a policy.
Wow.
It all depends on what you can do.
What you can do. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, some people pay, $450 a month for a policy, for example. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a car note, but right. I look at it as an investment in yourself.
Right.
If you don't like your own, if you don't want to invest in yourself, then you're not going to invest in anybody else either. If you're not going to take care of your own self, you don't care about what anybody else. And that's what's happening in our world today is so many people don't care about themselves, but anybody else. And so I live for the day or I die tomorrow. And that when I die, it's going to be on somebody else's, it's going to be on somebody else's expense.
Right, right. Now, can you, and I really want to hone in on this because you talked about two things that I just thought were so important. One, you just talked about what you did to be able to prepare yourself for when you got older. And then you talked about the doctor who was making sure that his daughter was taken care of when she got older. How does life insurance assist in building and preserving your legacy and then also building wealth? What do you think?
Well, they tell me that if you want to get wealthy, you invest in two main entities to get wealthy. Okay. The banking industry, then the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. The two largest entities in most cities are banks or insurance companies. Mm-hmm. They're in Baltimore. If you go down to the National Harbor, to the harbor there, mm-hmm. One of the tallest buildings at the National Harbor is a Transamerica building, mm-hmm. an insurance company. Another building that's there, I don't know if it's still there. The Lake Mason building used to be there. I don't know if it's still there or not. Mm-hmm. Those are banking or insurance entities. By investing in those kind of companies, they're building wealth. And if you invest in those type of entities, you're going to build wealth also. So you need to invest in something that's going to build wealth with you. And insurance policy is a great way. It's a secured way of you not losing money, because you don't lose money in an insurance policy. You're never going to lose money in an insurance policy. Wow. You're never going to lose it, because the insurance companies are always going to be making money. Mm-hmm. Even though people died of the COVID virus, they said the insurance industry is a recession-proof business. Recession-proof.
So would it be safe to say would it be safe to say that if you're investing in stocks, that one of the stocks that you invest in will be insurance companies?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Because think about it, if it's a recession-proof, it's a COVID-proof, even though people died of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Even though people died all the time, they're still making money.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
Because the insurance company is banking on you not dying. Yeah. It's like a crapshoot. They're gambling on you not dying. And the longer you keep the policy, the longer they make money.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So they hope you live to 100.
Yeah.
Past 100, because they've made money.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So if you invest in a company that you're going to get money back out of, you're going to get your value out of. They tell me you're never going to pay what you get out of the insurance policy. Mm-hmm. So if you have $1 million policy, you're never going to pay $1 million for that policy.
Right.
You're not going to pay that much.
Yeah. Mr. Silva, I want to talk to. I'll take these last few minutes. I want to take this time to talk to the younger generation, and I'm talking about the 20s, those that are in their 20s and 30s, because we were once there, and you couldn't tell us. We didn't know everything in our 20s and 30s. We knew everything. Nobody else knew anything else. But I want you to talk to them. What advice do you give to them, or would you give to them who was in their 20s and 30s, but doesn't think that they need life insurance, that they don't need financial literacy? What would you tell them? They come into your class. What do you tell them?
Here's what I would say to you is, I am 63 years old. I once was young, and now I'm old. Once I was uneducated in the finances, now I'm more educated in it. If I had known some of the things that your age that I know today, I would have put myself in a better financial position later on in life. So if I can help you put yourself in a better financial position later on, it's worth a smaller investment now to put yourself in a better situation later. I want to help families. I want to help them. I have a young man in our company who is 21 21 years old. He's going to make about $75,000 in the insurance business this year. Next year, he will probably do over $100,000 income. By the time he's 30, he's going to be a millionaire. Okay? Because we make money. There's a whole lot of money in the insurance industry. Okay? A whole lot of money. Because there's a lot of money in the banking and the insurance, and there's a whole lot of money involved in it. So this young man's going to be a millionaire. He dropped out of college at age 19.
Wow.
Okay? And in 2 years, he makes $75,000 after dropping out.
Wow.
Okay? He would have been graduating this spring.
Mm-hmm.
His students, the people who graduated with him, would go come out of college making probably $30,000 or $40,000, maybe $50,000, and on student loans on top of that. And this young man is going to probably push close to $100,000 this year. Mm-hmm. So, what I would tell anybody, think about the career fields that you would go into at this age, so that you can build wealth for yourself later on. Is that career that you're doing, is how much money would you make in 5 years? How much wealth would you have accumulated? This young man has 5 figures in the bank at 21 years old. 5 figures. Okay? If you don't know what that means, he got at least $10,000 in the bank.
Right.
Okay? For those who don't understand what I mean. He got 5 figures in the bank. So I'm telling young people, think about where you want to be in 20 years. Okay? And start looking to invest in things that's going to get you there. Think about what you're going to be in 20 years. I mean, I know everybody can't go into the insurance industry. Everybody can't go into to be a doctor. But to be a doctor, it's going to take you at least 12 years to become a medical doctor. Right. 12, 15 years to be able, depends on it. And then how much money would you make in 15 years? So I want to wait 15 years to make a substantial amount of money. So think about what kind of career fields you want to go into. And then start investing money in some type of entity like an insurance policy that's going to help you generate that wealth for your family, for you and your family.
Wow. Yeah, this has been powerful. Now, how can entrepreneurs and individuals incorporate a life insurance strategy for 2022? Because we're at the beginning of 2022, and I'm telling people my mantra for this year is it's building season. It's building season. What are you building in 2022? So they should be building this life insurance, this legacy wealth building. What do they need to do to incorporate that strategy, to have a strategy in 2022 moving forward?
I think the first thing, like I said, the first thing you need to do is you need to sit down and examine yourself and see where you are right now and where you want to go to, where you want to be at the end of 2022. At the beginning of 2021, I didn't like where I was. And I said, I got to do something to make myself in a better position at the end of 21. And I think we need to sit down with somebody like a coach, like a financial coach, and examine where I am and what I have in place. And if something was to happen to me before the end of 22, would my family be in a better position, same position, or a worse position than they are right now? Because we got to think about our families. If we say we love our families, if we say that we love our people, then are you going to leave them in a worse predicament than they are at the beginning of the year? So I think we need to put things in place. At the minimum, put the minimum in place at least, and then start working on putting other things in place that's going to help the families.
And I love that. I love that because, like I tell y'all, my goal is to make you better by the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. And the only way that I do that, or I try and do that, is by bringing you people like Mr. James Silver, who's going to educate you on financial literacy, on being able to put yourself and your children. I'm telling you, you blew me away with that. From 3 years old to 18 years old, they could have $40,000 waiting for them. And then by the time they turn 40, you made your child a millionaire. You can make your child a millionaire. That's powerful right there. So how can people connect with you to do that initial consultation and begin to put in place their financial literacy strategy, their life insurance strategy for 2022? How can they go about doing that?
First off, I would suggest that you give my office a call, and I'm available. I'm available tonight if you need to talk to me tonight. I'm available tomorrow if you need to talk to me tomorrow. My phone number is going to be 240-245-7678. You can email me tonight at consult, CONSULT, JE Silver@gmail.com. That's consult, CONSULT, JESIL, Vision Victory, @gmail.com. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody and anybody who will have a conversation with me, because at some point, we all going to transition, and how we leave our families matters. Your life matters. We matter. We matter. And leaving your family in a better position is going to help you. It's going to make you sleep better at night. It's going to make you be able to hold your head up and say, look, I did the very best for my family. And I look forward to helping each and every one of you.
So get that, y'all. 500 families is what he's looking to do to assist you in being able to build your legacy, build your wealth, and educate you from a financial perspective, financial literacy. And it's one of the most important investments that you can make in yourself, that you can make in your family. This is 2022, y'all. It's about, what are you building? It's building season. So you want to put in place that strategy, that plan that helps you to be able to make yourself better and your family better, by not only the end of this year, but for future generations, for 2023, 2024, and beyond. Because what you do now will determine what you do in the future. And we don't want to see any of you. We don't want to see any of you broke. What is it? You only want to see you broke.
You're old, broke and sick.
We do not. That is his mission, is to make sure that those 500 people are not old, broke, and sick. So reach out to him, give him your contact information one more time, and then we'll close out.
Phone number 240-245-7678. Email address consult, CONSULT, JESIL, Vision Victory, @gmail.com.
Mr. Silver, thank you so much for the education. Thank you for the knowledge that you poured into us tonight. I appreciate you. We want to thank you all for tuning in to the brand new development series. We're in 2022, y'all. We are off to a phenomenal, strong start, and we just want to go higher and higher and higher. And the only way that we do that is by pouring into ourselves, investing in ourselves, and making sure that we are better by the end of the year than we were at the beginning of the year. So it's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. We will, in 2022, we are building wealth, we're building legacy, we are building ourselves, intellectually, spiritually, culturally, all of those things, because it's up to us to educate our community. So Mr. Silver, thank you for educating the community tonight. And we thank y'all for tuning in. and we will see you all next time. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to y'all soon.